Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, just accept Krishna in your heart. Right. So, welcome early, everyone. Starting in about 8 minutes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Listen carefully. I'm starting in 5 minutes. Starting in 1 minute. Hare Krishna, everyone, and welcome again to our ongoing journey in self-discovery and God realization under the guidance of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. That's a bit loud, isn't it? Please let us know who you are, where you are, and maybe 2 or 3 words about Srimati Radharani. So today we are studying Bhagavad Gita, continuing in our study of Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 2, Contents of the Gita Summarized, text number 32. And you might think about what I've posted as the ultimate goal of study of Bhagavad Gita. Srimati Radharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. So at any time, please put in questions or comments. Might even consider comments or questions not related to the text, but better, I think it will become clear that everything we talk about, even about Srimati Radharani, is connected. And we'll start singing about her. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. 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 Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jasodanandana Prajana Ranjana. Jasodanandana Prajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. 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 Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Prajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Prajana Ranjana Jamunatira Anachari Jamunatira Anachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. Now you. Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jagana 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 Jaya Baladev Jaya Subhadra Jaya Jagana Jaya Jagana Jaya Baladev Jaya Subhadra Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radha Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radha Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Radhe Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Radhe Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Radhe Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Radhe Radhe Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Gaura Hari Bo Gaur Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Gaura Hari Bo Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Prabhupada Jai Jai 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 Prabhupada 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 Jai Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Pastatara Sadashri Srimati's Divine Grace Avaya Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Guru Parampara Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai Shri Shilanama Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, ISKCON BBT founder, Acharya's Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Prem Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati, Gaura Bhaktarinda Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna, Gopi Gopinath, Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna, Gopi Gopinath, Shama Kunda, Radha Kunda, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Srimati Radharani Ki Jai, the Transcendental Appearance Day of Srimati Radharani Ki Jai, Shri Radhastami Maha Mahotsava Ki Jai, Shri Radhastami Maha Mahotsava Ki Jai, Shri Radhastami Maha Mahotsava Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, all glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Krishna Prasad. Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami. So I'll go through the translation myself, and then we can do the word meanings together responsibly. Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, contents of the Gita summarized, text number 32. Yadrichaya chapapanam svargadvaram apavritam sukhina chatriya partha labante yudham idrisham. Yadrichaya chapapanam svargadvaram apavritam sukhina chatriya partha labante yudham idrisham. Please repeat after me. Yadrichaya, by its own accord. Cha, also. Upapanam, arrived at. Svarga, heavenly planet. Dvaram, door. Apavritam, wide open. Sukhina, very happy. Kshatriya, the members of the royal order. Partha, O son of Pritha. Labante, do achieve. Yudham, war. Idrisham, like this. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. Please repeat. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. Report. As supreme teacher of the world, Lord Krishna condemns the attitude of Arjuna, who said, quote, I do not find any good in this fighting. It will cause perpetual habitation in hell, end quote. Such statements by Arjuna were due to ignorance only. He wanted to become nonviolent in the discharge of his specific duty. For a Kshatriya to be in the battlefield and to become nonviolent is the philosophy of fools. In the Parashara Smriti, or religious codes made by Parashara, the great sage and father of Vyasadeva, it is stated, quote, Kshatriyo hi prajarakshan shastra puni pradandayan nirjitya parasain yadi chitim dharmena palayet. Quote, the Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties. And for that reason, he has to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. He has to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Therefore, he has to conquer the soldiers of inimical kings. And thus, with religious principles, he should rule over the world. And what's emphasized there is with religious principles, he should rule over the world and conquer the king, the soldiers of inimical kings. End quote. Considering all aspects, Arjuna had no reason to refrain from fighting. If he should conquer his enemies, he would enjoy the kingdom. And if he should die in the battle, he would be elevated to the heavenly planets, whose doors were wide open to him. Fighting would be for his benefit in either case. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatadi Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Kroti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Garim Yatripatam Ham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. By the mercy of the spiritual master, a lame man can cross over mountains and a dumb man can compose eloquent poetry. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimati Radharani ki jai. Yadrichaya chupapanam svargadvaram apavritam Sukhina Kshatriya Partha Lavante Yudham Idrisham. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. So Krishna is the supreme teacher of the world, of everyone, of the whole world, meaning everything, everyone. In the material world or the spiritual world. Of course, the teaching needs to go on here in this material cosmos because we are deviant, we are errant, and we're presenting arguments, as is Arjuna, why we should not surrender to Krishna, why we should not fight the good fight. And Krishna is speaking to us. He and Arjuna are in the position of giving an example in a situation where Arjuna is apparently fully challenged and is acting as if he's a conditioned soul, just like you and me. In that sense, we are Arjuna. So we are saying to Krishna, I don't see any good in the instructions that you're giving me. I think I will live forever in misery and darkness, in hell, caused by if I follow your instructions. I do not find any good in this fighting. And yet we are fighting every single day. Who are we fighting? Fighting our minds, the materialistic contaminated senses, and the lust that is driving us not only to fulfill the demands of the senses, but to the conviction that there's anything but suffering and frustration as a result of following the demands of the conditioned mind and senses. So we are fighting, just like Arjuna is fighting. And it's important to always remember that we are fighting. Prabhupada gives that example of the drop of water on the lily leaf. He uses the word tottering. It can roll off at any moment. Our situation is so dangerous and so risky. There's nothing sure. There's no insurance, no health insurance, no life insurance, except Krishna consciousness that will save us, to give us security, stability, so we won't be disturbed even within this material atmosphere, in the midst of our challenged relationships. Oh, he said this about me, or she thinks this about me, or I have this debt that I don't know how I can pay off, and I've committed to that, and I've broken my promise, and I have this habit that I can't give up. We're constantly besieged by various adversaries, various anxieties. Anxieties are adversaries because of our identification with the material body and mind and material world. Because of our attachment arising from that identification. By contemplating the object of the senses, one becomes attached to them. So we're constantly contemplating this material world. We can't avoid it, although in one sense we can, because we can see it differently. And that's what Krishna is pushing and pulling and sometimes heavily chastising Arjuna about. And to bring him to that consciousness that he, Krishna, is behind everything, and he is our friend. He is our best friend eternally. Not only, and he's the best friend who is omniscient. He knows everything. He knows more than we do. He knows exactly what we need, even we don't understand it ourselves. And he knows, and he is able to fulfill our desires and protect us. That's what a friend does. Give security. And we may have so many friends in this world, but they can't give us real security. They can empathize or sympathize with us, give us a pity party, which doesn't make any difference. Empathy is better than sympathy. But they can't satisfy us fully. They're limited. They're not God, although everyone on some level thinks that they are. Krishna can do that, and he wants to do that, and he's urging Arjuna because of his desire to help Arjuna, and to also through Arjuna to instruct us. Such statements by Arjuna, such statements or mentalities by the mentality of ours is due to ignorance only. So what is ignorance? Ignorance means we're ignoring something. We're ignoring the truth that Krishna is the supreme teacher, and he's our best friend, and he's the proprietor of all planets and universes, and he is the enjoyer, supreme enjoyer. So we're avoiding that at all costs, and that is our battle. So we are fighting. For a Kshatriya to become nonviolent in the battlefield is a philosophy of fools. For us not to fight, for us to be nonviolent and passive and off the court, so to speak, not in action, not busy making progress. This is based on the philosophy of fools, of ignorance. And we can look into that. We may think, for whatever reason, we can't or are incapable or undeserving of what Krishna is offering, which is also ignorance. Krishna doesn't hold back from anyone who sincerely surrenders, even the lowest of the low. Look at Jagan Madai. Even in impersonalists. Prakashananda Saraswati was not only envious, he was critical of Krishna, of Lord Chaitanya. He was critical. So that's the difference between impersonalists who can become devotees and the impersonalists that cannot, is that they are those who cannot because they are offenders. But even Prakashananda Saraswati, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, of course, that's special. And that's available, that special mercy is available to us. And we're going to talk about Radharani in a minute, her day today. Prakashananda Saraswati was able to become a devotee, even though he had been offensive. So even where our lives for such a long time have been offensive to Krishna, avoiding, insulting indirectly by denying that he is the supreme teacher, the eternal, best, and and only qualified friend, that he's the enjoyer of everything, and that he's the proprietor of all planets and universes. That is the peace formula. So we actually become peaceful when we recognize and accept that, even theoretically. We're fighting against anxieties. As soon as we accept Krishna, even the anxieties will be there. We can go through it and we can sail through it. We can be busy making progress happily, powerfully. That is the offer. That is the opportunity of Krishna consciousness. And Srimati Radharani is the emblem of that. The other reason why Krishna is, another reason I should say, why Krishna is teaching Arjuna is because Arjuna, any qualified Kshatriya, has a duty to protect the citizens. And sometimes violence is necessary to do that. Therefore, we're not pacifists. Sometimes violence has to be applied in suitable cases for law and order, for keeping the miscreants and the Maya, the degradation of the conditioned souls in this world at bay. Now, that Maya, that illusion, that degradation, that misinformation, the ignorance is fully 99% dominant in the world today. But let's look within, because who are we meant to protect from Mr. Lust, as Prabhupada says? Who are our citizens? Who are our dependents? Not just our spouses or our children or grandchildren or friends, but our own senses, our own thoughts, our mind. They need protection. And that isn't just negatively fighting against the forces of evil, so to speak, but it's positive engagement, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, param drisva nivartanto, that even the tendency to enjoy the senses or for sensual attraction remains. If one is fixed in consciousness by experiencing a higher taste, one becomes steady and strong and peaceful without any anxiety. Anxiety may be there, but we are less and less affected by it. And gradually we learn to deal with those anxieties, because anxieties are caused by situation, concern and attachment in relation to certain situations. Say I have a big debt. So, all right. So if I have some anxiety about that, how can I powerfully deal with that instead of hiding away or pretending that I can't deal with it? Krishna will give us ways to deal with that debt. We can, first of all, take responsibility for not having paid it off yet, be in integrity. That is already respectful. Just like if someone does something wrong to me and they come to apologize genuinely with a heartfelt apology, that makes a big difference for me. it's much easier for me to forgive them. Now, we shouldn't apologize with the expectation that someone's going to relieve the debt that we owe them, the money we owe them. I mean, they may, but there's so many ways. If we use our intelligence with trust that Krishna is going to help us to come to that level of integrity, that level of mode of goodness, where I take full responsibility powerfully. I am responsible for every single aspect of my life, whether it's a financial debt, whether it's a broken relationship, whether it's my old age, my disease, my impending demise of the physical body, that is. So we can we can learn to protect ourselves when it is based, when we act according to religious principles. The Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties. So sometimes we have to be violent, some tough love with ourselves. And when we come to our bad habits, that can be a challenge. So we need association. Considering all aspects, Arjuna had no reason to refrain from fighting. So we actually have no reason. We come up with so many reasons, so many excuses not to deal with our debt, not to deal with our broken relationships, not dealing powerfully with our health and the old age and the impending death. We have no reason to do that, Krishna is saying, as a supreme teacher. And whether we agree with that, in that, oh, well, maybe I feel I can't. Okay, well, the mind is telling us that due to our whatever. Krishna is not saying that. Krishna is saying you have no reason. So if we at least theoretically accept that we have no reason not to fight the good fight, because Krishna says it, then we can look outside of the box. We can risk having more faith, taking the next step, maybe where we're stuck, in terms of listening to our japa. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And especially today, pray to Srimati Radharani for her mercy. She is mercy personified. And Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya because why? What are the internal reasons for Krishna coming as Lord Chaitanya? Because he wanted to understand the love that Radharani feels for him. He wanted to experience that. So, and obviously, the Sankirtan movement is based on what is one of the external reasons why Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya, to spread the Sankirtan mission. That is a manifestation of Krishna's desire to appreciate and taste the experience that Radharani is having in loving him. If Krishna can't do something, that's one thing he can't do. And yet he arranged that he could do it as Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya's swooning and his apparent forgetfulness and space-outedness, his ignoring or being callous to material situation, going to the ocean and thinking that this is the Jamuna and jumping in and being underwater for a long time, so much so that his skin wrinkled, and not completely unaffected, ignoring the reality of being underwater for more than 5 minutes It's inconceivable. And yet Lord Chaitanya came to show us that all these symptoms of ecstasy, horripilation, standing of hairs, crying, acting dumb, being dumbstruck, going mad. I told you that event where John Lennon was challenging Prabhupada a bit about why accept his version, Prabhupada's version of Bhagavad Gita as it is. So there's so many versions. We have one. Why should we? Why is yours any different? And to make a long story short, Prabhupada said, you need to find someone who is mad after Krishna. Mad after Krishna. Going crazy for Krishna. So then the end of the last sentence of the purport is fighting would be for the benefit. Fighting our enemies, the anxieties, the Mr. Lust, the all the material, the aspects of the material condition, which are besieging us 24/7, is for our benefit. So fighting is glorious, and it gives us the results we want in terms of peacefulness, clarity, confidence, joy, satisfaction, compassion, generosity, all the qualities of a devotee. And Srimati Radharani, she's far, far beyond. Even Krishna cannot understand her. That's why it comes with Lord Chaitanya. Even Krishna cannot understand her. So, and Prabhupada does talk about the Rasa Lila in Krishna book, but he warned us against talking too much or trying to go too deeply into the intimate loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. In fact, Lord Chaitanya didn't speak about these subjects at all with people in general, at all, about Rasa Lila, about intimate pastimes between Radha and Krishna, at all. And Prabhupada warned us that is sahajiya. We can talk about Radha and Krishna, and in fact, we can imitate Radha and Krishna. That is sahajiya, taking things very cheaply, but we should be very careful and appreciate. We cannot understand Radharani. In fact, it's laughable, almost laughable that today we're going to be talking about Srimati Radharani. It's like a frog trying to understand Einstein's theory. So if we see ourselves like that, completely unqualified and even on risky ground to talk about Radharani, that's a good attitude. And the one and only reason that we can talk about Radharani today is because of the pure devotee, our beloved founder Acharya. Acharya, past, present, and future of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Srila Prabhupada. Because we hold his hand, he's taking our hand, he's fighting for us, he's done the work. And now he, being the supreme teacher, supreme personality of servitor teacher, he's the perfect representative of Krishna. He's constantly in touch with Krishna, and we sing every morning, Shri Radhika Madhavayor Apara Madhurya Lila Guna Rupanamna Pratikshana Swadannalolupasya Pande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes between Radhika and Madhava. between Radha and Krishna, and their quality, names, and forms. Guna, Rupa, Nam. Qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these subjects at every moment, and he's doing so. We should know that without slightest doubt, at least make sure we're progressing to that stage, that Srila Prabhupada is experiencing those conjugal pastimes, and the qualities, names, forms of Radha and Krishna all the time. He's in that atmosphere. He's in Krishna Loka 24/7. And because he is empowered by Krishna to give those matters to us in a way that we can apply without risking becoming sahajya, without risking thinking that, oh, here's a handsome young man and a very beautiful young lady, they're together. Because automatically we think this, our consciousness is mundane. As soon as we see a young man and young lady together, immediately the mind's mundane, because the whole focus of our consciousness and the world in general, at least has, maybe our consciousness has come out of that to some extent, has been around mundane sex. That's the cynosure of material world, material consciousness. So we have to simultaneously be very careful and see ourselves as like frogs, completely unqualified. And yet at the same time, because of Srila Prabhupada, who is presenting Lord Chaitanya's mood in a way that he's spoon feeding us, then we have a chance. We have an opportunity to become stronger in the fight. It's not that we don't talk about Srimati Radharani, but we do it in a certain mentality, a certain consciousness, a certain extreme humility and vigilance to watch where our consciousness is going. And by doing that, we can get a slight glimpse, a slight taste by Prabhupada and the Panchatattva's mercy to experience of that transcendence. What inconceivable mercy, what inconceivable kindness, what causeless, it's causeless. We may think it depends on us, and Krishna does say, "Yayatamam padyante," as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Still, we still, even though we struggle to surrender, if we remain in the humble neophyte mentality that I'm completely unqualified, that does not mean I can't have the qualification. That doesn't mean I can't experience. Just because I may use the excuse of being unqualified just to block myself from being open to that transcendental experience, to having a glimpse, a taste, an experience of that transcendental reality, that bliss, that freedom, that complete peace and ecstasy. And all of you have probably experienced that. We just have to always, it's very, very important. It's essential to remember that's because of Srila Prabhupada. Without that, by the mercy of the spiritual master, Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado, Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutopi, Jayam Suvam Stasyaya Shastri Sandyam, Bande Guru Shri Charana Ravindam. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, no one can make any spiritual advancement. So that's a prohibition and an introduction and an instruction at the same time, a do and a don't at the same time. It means, okay, if you don't take the mercy of the spiritual master, you can't make any spiritual advancement. Of course, it's a whole lifetime study how to take it, how to apply it. It's also an encouragement, a prescription. Take it, and you have it all. There's no limit. So we can take it either way. We should understand both sides of it. That it's all. Firstly, be very, very careful not to minimize the instruction of the spiritual master, the association, the guidance, the supreme position of the spiritual master, supreme personality of servant of Godhead, who is the representative of Radharani as well. He doesn't think himself like that, but that's because he is transparent. He is given his life over. So he's a pure, unalloyed, unlimited conduit of that experience that is waiting for us. It seems like materially it's a contradiction. Spiritually, it goes well together. That we are completely unqualified and we are fully qualified. And Krishna is bringing Arjuna to that point. So any questions or comments? Put them up in chat. Okay, I didn't see your comment before. Dandavat pranams, we are always being called to battle in this world. How do we choose our battles wisely? Good question. How do we choose our battles wisely? Well, that's important to consider. Thank you. Because there's so many battles. You're wondering how do we prioritize? What's the first one? I would say that's one thing we can do is prioritize. What's the thing that will help me? Something that I can do in the next few hours or few days that will forward my progress, my advancement, my strength, my taste, my attraction for Krishna, and applying principles of sadhana, bhakti yoga, quickly. So then one can consider, I have this urgency, I have that, I have debts to pay, I have house to clean, I have a broken promise, and Prabhupada gives us the essentials. Chant 16 rounds a day. Follow the 4 regular principles. Even if one is not following the 4 regular principles, to find ways to advance in following them. There's never any disqualification, even if you're not following any principles. Chant Hare Krishna, take prasadam, associate with devotees, study, and you'll get the ability, you'll have the strength, the energy, the confidence to do that, to advance, to follow 1, then or 2 or 3 or 4. Some people, they get into Krishna consciousness and they give them all up. Now later on, the attachments may resurface. But so I would suggest that prioritizing first, make a list, write down the list, what my challenges are, what battles are important for me, and then choose the first and second, or just the first. Generally, I find that if I follow the first principle, the first practice, the first advice, chant 16 rounds a day, and if you're not chanting 16 rounds a day, chant Hare Krishna with the attitude that Lord Chaitanya taught us, Trinadapi. One can chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind. thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Trinada Pisun. That Lord Chaitanya in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's recommended. Take that verse and string it on a garland and hang it around your neck. So I would suggest generally, not maybe not in a specific case, if I'm talking to someone personally, coaching, counseling, but generally, I'd say that's the place to start. And I find that the better I do that, then all the other battles not only become clear in what succession or which ones, which are priority, but also the power to do them much more easily. I'm sure you experienced that. So if you're still with us, what do you think about that? So I said that I entitled the Srimati Radharani, the ultimate goal of Bhagavad Gita. I say that because even though Radharani may be mentioned once in Bhagavad Gita, not sure, she's not mentioned Bhagavatam at all, except indirectly in Aradyate, in the word Aradyate, to worship. She's the perfect servant, worshiper of Krishna. Pertinent answer. Oh, thank you. Hare Krishna. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on it, more than appreciating mine. If you'd like to share. Before we finishing soon, we're starting our Radhastami program here at Elena and Igor's house at 11 o'clock, and lots to prepare for that. Yes, even though Radharani may not be mentioned or very infrequently in Bhagavad Gita or any of our books except Chaitanya Charitamrita, understanding her as the personification of devotional service is the ultimate purpose of Bhagavad Gita. And we don't jump to that. We should not jump artificially. We have to get there gradually, from Shraddha to praying. We have a whole system, a systematic process, scientific process of approaching gradually according to our level, without avoiding certain obstacles, especially in artists and Anartha Nivriti, on the way. As soon as we avoid those anarthas, we're suppressing them, pretending they're not there, doing some spiritual bypassing, or living in this illusion of transcendence that I'm transcendental because I'm chanting Hare Krishna. Unless we deal with all of them gradually and fortunately or unfortunately, challengingly, Krishna brings them up, and he'll keep bringing them up until we learn that lesson and become successful in our battle with that. Yes, I agree. We need to focus on those instructions of the Guru which are most important for us. Putting Krishna in the consciousness is the primary battle. Jai. Keeping him there and acting, living, adjusting our lives, Prabhupada says, mold our lives in such a way that we can always think about Krishna. Exactly what you're saying in different words. Thank you very much. All other battles should support that. Yes, perfect. Always remember Krishna and never forget him. That seems so simplistic, but it includes everything. That's what you're indicating, that all of the bad battles should support that, and all other battles will be won with that foundation. So today we're working on that foundation to keep ourselves in that most humble attitude while we glorify the Supreme Personality, the one who controls and attracts God. Srimati Radharani Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sadhu Sangha Ki Jai. Shri Radhastami Ki Jai. The Transcendental Appearance Day of Srimati Radharani Ki Jai. Thank you all. Hare Krishna. Have a most blessed day. And please pray for me. Hare Krishna.